This is a big storm. It's had his eyes set on Galveston.
If you live in one of the evacuation zip codes and you have not left, leave now. It's important that people understand that this really is a life or death matter.
We were seeing these waves come shooting up into the air twice my height, and you're looking up going, oh my gosh, this is going to be huge.
The storm really was coming in higher than everybody thought.
It was running like a river through the houses. Every house was underwater.
We knew the minute water got in beyond a couple of inches, we would be gone.
From the Weather Channel, this is Storm Stories with meteorologist Jim Cantore.
It's September 2008. All eyes are on the east coast of Texas as Hurricane Ike threatens the region. The vulnerable islands of Galveston and the Bolivar Peninsula are particularly at risk.
This is a big storm. It's had his eyes set on Galveston.
Ike is expected to make landfall in the early hours of Saturday, September 13th. But the signs of the hurricane's potential for destruction are already visible almost 24 hours earlier.
Ike really hasn't come into this area yet, but he's been whipping up the Gulf into a froth all morning long. It's getting stronger and stronger with each passing hour.
With winds of 110 miles per hour, Ike is rated a Category 2 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale, which measures a hurricane's wind intensity. The average storm surge associated with a Category 2 hurricane on this scale is 6 to 8 feet. However, due to the massive size of Ike, nearly 425 miles across, and where it will strike land, it has the potential to generate a water rise of 15 to 20 feet, a recipe for destruction for these low-lying islands.
The bigger the storm, the bigger the surge.
Mandatory evacuations are issued for the region.
If you live in one of the evacuation zip codes and you have not left, leave now. The storm surge is stronger, and it's important that people understand that this really is a life or death matter.
Advisories issued by the National Weather Service also make clear the consequences of not evacuating.
If you did not take precautions or move to a place of safety, it was possible that you could face certain death.
Now we're seeing more waves. It's right up against the seawall already. And of course, there is a mandatory evacuation underway out here. The mayor has urged everybody to get off the island and do it as quickly as possible.
Elizabeth Scarborough, a reporter with KPRC, is experiencing the challenges of covering a hurricane for the first time.
I had never been through a hurricane before, and so I didn't really know what to expect. I was sort of excited, scared. It was more than I ever could have imagined.
She marvels at Ike's destructive force even before the hurricane makes landfall.
Half a day before Ike hit, we were seeing these waves come slapping against the seawall and shooting up into the air twice my height. And you're looking up going, oh my gosh, this is going to be huge.
Despite the ominous signs, many of the area's residents are not convinced a hurricane rated Category 2 could be so dangerous.
With even a strong Category 2 storm, it's still advisable to leave, but it's not going to wash the house away. So when the forecaster tells you, watch out, your house might wash away, it didn't sound realistic.
An estimated 20,000 residents do not evacuate, and some residents who wait until the last minute to evacuate find they are too late. The storm surge they refuse to believe would be so powerful arrives. The lasting lesson of this hurricane is learned the hard way.
And unfortunately, a lot of the evacuation routes were cut off early Friday morning, so they were basically trapped at that point.
Pam and Warren Adams, who live in Gilcrest on the Bolivar Peninsula, heed the warnings and plan to evacuate Thursday evening.
I told Pam, I said, listen, I don't think there's any need to leave tonight. Let's just wait, get up in the morning early, around 6 o'clock. We'll take a look at the news, and then we'll get out of here.
But worried about the hurricane, Pam is unable to sleep. She goes out onto their deck to check on the weather conditions and is shocked by what she sees.
The water was starting to come up and turning in on the road. I said, Warren, there's water coming up the street. I got scared and I saw the water coming up the street.
And it was getting higher and higher.
The couple face a treacherous 8-mile drive to safety on a flooded and debris-strewn road.
We got on the highway and the road was already flooded, so we had to drive down the middle of the road. There was some places the water had already crossed over the street.
The wind was pretty high about that time. There was lawn furniture and stuff blowing across the road. It was very scary.
9 miles away in Crystal Beach, Carol Hamaday, who runs a bed and breakfast called Out by the Sea, and her friend Diane Alexander also have plans to evacuate Friday morning.
Friday morning, we were planning to wake up about 5:30. We just said, let's get out as fast as we can. We got dressed real quick, we were packed, and Diane was in the kitchen.
When I looked out the window, the ocean was already coming up. It was already under the houses on the front and second row.
That's one of the worst visions I don't think I'll ever forget. I can only express it like as fast as my hands are moving, as fast as the water was coming right toward us. And I said, hurry, everybody get downstairs.
The women attempt to drive off the peninsula.
We tried to evacuate by leaving and going down the road. We had to turn around and come back because the water was too high. We couldn't see the road, so we just had to do it by memory, and we barely got back here in time.
Back at the inn, they call 911 for assistance.
The operator said, head down to the fort and we'll pick you up in a helicopter. And I said, we have our dogs, and she said, well, take your dogs home and leave them. Diane and I said, we're not leaving our dogs to die. We called back several more times, got other people who said that if it was up to the pilot, if the pilot decided to take the dogs, we could evacuate.
Farther down the beach, Audine Umbright also awakes to find her escape route flooded.
All of the dunes were gone. I saw the water coming in, looking like little rivers coming in the backs of the dunes, and then I could see the water rising all the way into my yard already.
Audine calls her husband Ed, who is in Houston.
Our yard is an extra several feet higher than the beach, so for the water to already be in our yard, it was already covering the road out in front of the house. She was worried that if she left now, she'd get stuck somewhere else.
Ed calls the local sheriff to see if they can help his wife.
The sheriff said there was no way for her to get out, confirmed that she was stranded, confirmed that they could not rescue her.
I could go around the deck because I have a surround deck and see that the water really was covering every bit of the neighborhood. My heart was really racing, and I was wondering, what am I going to do?
Concerned that she may have no other choice but to ride out the hurricane, Audine texts her kids.
You know, you tell them things like, I love you more than you know, and hopefully I'll get out of here, and I'm getting emotional thinking about it.
The storm really was coming in faster than everybody thought. It was coming in higher than everybody thought. I thought there was a chance I might not see her again.
We said our I love yous. We said, you know, hopefully I'll get out of this.
It was too soon to dwell on that kind of a thought, but there was that possibility. And that's kind of what drives you. I better do everything I possibly can to keep that from happening.
In Houston, Ed tries to devise a way to save his wife.
I thought, you know, somebody's in trouble now. I'm going to call the Coast Guard. So there's a station right here in Galveston. I called them. Nobody answered. So I called the Coast Guard station in Houston and Corpus Christi. Nobody answered those. So I sat back and decided I was calling the Coast Guard in Washington, D.C.
Ed's persistence pays off. He gets a cell phone number for the Coast Guard crew performing rescues in the area, and they get in touch with Audine.
They asked me if I was in imminent danger, and I gave them a detailed description about what the house looked like and where it was. We had a conversation about the fact that I had a dog. I told them I have no death wish, but if you're not going to take my dog, please go rescue other people because I won't leave her behind. At that point, the water had come all the way up to my slab. It was running like a river through the houses. Every house was underwater. Things were starting to float. It was just very serious.
I think I talked to her one more time. She confirmed the Coast Guard said they were coming, but now she had to go outside and watch for them. All I could do was cross my fingers.